Hello, and this is the Chaos Magic Podcast. And on today's episode, we've got the fantastic founder of Marvin's Magic and the president of the Magic Circle, Marvin Berglas.
Hey, great to be here, Max. Thank you for inviting me.
And of course, your dad was a magician, David, and you grew up all around magic. But what made you think that you want to do magic in your own career?
Well, it's an interesting question. When it's your dad it's his work, you actually don't realize how special or different it is because that's what the family does, So whilst we were surrounded by it and Dad was working, obviously, late all around the world and, doing some really exciting things, he'd often be away for large periods of the year and stuff. So it was quite weird. I was just a normal kid growing up, playing football with my brother and mucking around and everything. And it wasn't really till a lot later that I really got truly into magic,
Okay. And what made you go down the career path of making magic instead of performing it?
Well, I actually do both. I've always done both, but the performance side of it, I always knew how difficult it was to get into magic. And it's obviously a very secretive profession, and we try to protect our secrets. And there was basically, I was always quite outgoing, and I had I was quite entrepreneurial, which is a word I love using, being an entrepreneur at a young age. And so I saw an opportunity really. Hamleys, where I was demonstrating right by the front door with a product called the Magic Drawing Board at the time. I made quite theatrical. It was my business, and so I really was the top sales and demonstrator in that store, which is a big store in London. And the buyer of Hamleys knew of my magical connection and thought they used to have a magic department, but it wasn't doing that well. So they thought, would I know anybody who could help? So it's a light bulb moment, really. I thought, well, I've always loved design. I always loved magic. I always loved demonstration. So I earned the opportunity, as you do in life, each opportunity goes to another one, to sort of come up with a basic concept, which was how we launched Marvin's Magic back, now nearly 40 years ago.
And of course, with Marvin's Magic, you're giving the younger generation of magicians to try and get into our very niche thing. But some magicians don't really like the idea of children knowing the idea of tricks. So what made you think about basically having like a magic set?
Well, basically, magic sets have been around for years, literally hundreds of years. And so I was wanted to make sure that if you got a magic set, it was a good magic set. And it was magic that you could actually perform, was suitable for the age range that it was intended, and had very clear and good instructions. And as my dad used to say to me, always learn a few tricks really well rather than lots badly. So we want to protect, obviously, magic. So we made sure it's the right type of tricks, which are starter tricks to encourage the magicians of tomorrow. And it's clearly taken off because obviously we've started up so many different magicians many of who are now professionals, and indeed some of the elite professionals.
And with the things, how do you decide what tricks to include and what tricks to not? Was it like a whiteboard thing where you just list down every single trick and you decided which ones would be good to and which ones won't be, or what other ideas did you have?
So it was a mixture, Max, of stuff that I thought would be good, or some old classics that we try to bring up to date. But ironically, in the very first time we started, we had a magic set. And then we also had 2 size boxes, which I had printed. And when you start a business, you don't want your cost to be too high. So I literally just had 2 sizes of boxes. And we wanted to make them almost like a gift as opposed to anything else, because they were demonstrated really well by great demonstrators that we trained. And rather than just being a little cheapy sort of thing that was pocket money, we made it in a lovely gift box with red tissue to be like a silk handkerchief, very clear instructions. And the criteria in those days was it a suitable trick, but also did it fit in the 2 size boxes? So either one this size or one a bit smaller. And so that was the original criteria point, because we literally just put labels on what the tricks were. It wasn't until later in the day that we were able to sort of have each item boxed and everything. But it was we always try to to think what products would demonstrate well, what tricks would be suitable to go inside them that kids could do. It should ideally have a gimmick, something which would help them, or help people uh, in their journey. So it's almost like a painting by numbers for magic, but obviously we have different types of ranges, and it's not just for children. It went to executive magic. We had our executive magic briefcase, and so business people were buying our magic because it was well designed and looked good in some of these best stores. But they're also great magic tricks.
Yeah. And of course, you've got the mascot for Marvin's Magic, Marvin. How would you come up with the design for Marvin?
Um, I I used to run this another company or several companies, and one of them we had a similar type of mascot of an art and craft guy with a beret on and a paintbrush and an easel in hand. So I changed him, winking because I thought that's giving the secret, to a top hat and a magic wand, and it seemed to fit very well. And that character has been. In fact, I've got one here. Let me find it. I've got this was the, this is our a little chap here. He looks just like me, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Especially if I shut one eye. Now we had two ranges. So that was the sort of magic made easy sort of thing. But then obviously I was on the box for when it got a bit more serious and more aspirational.
And can I ask you a question from the creator point of view?
Yeah,
Do you think the innovation of magic today comes from new technology or reimagining classic ideas?
I think it's both. And I think a very good example of that would be something that we put out, which was called Marvin's Eye Magic. I don't know if you remember that. It's basically it's a magic which all the props work by themselves and are fantastic on their own. But in conjunction with the Marvin's Magic Eye or the Marvin's Eye Magic app, which is now just the Marvin's Magic app, you were able to do extraordinary things. For example, it had augmented reality where you could use your phone and technology to create the little Marvin character doing magic. Or there was certain bonus tricks on it. For example, we all know things like fly paddles, or paddles rather, where spots jump from one to the other. That's a well-known standard magic trick, but we took it that stage further, that we made them three-dimensional flies on each one. So we said, this is a fly swat, an apple fly swat, and they could jump. You could train them to jump from here to here, here to here. And then you do your routine. But the good thing is you say, now, if I get my phone, this is interesting. You can tap it on the phone and it would disappear from the paddle and end up buzzing around inside the phone. So you said, oh, I've got a bug in my phone now. This is not very good. So what could you do? You were able to blow on it and then swipe it and it would freeze over like on a cold day with your car, and then you rub it away to reveal the fly underneath inside the phone, but inside an ice cube. And then you'd hold the phone over a glass, shake it, and it would disappear from the phone, and a real ice cube with a fly would come out. So that's how we combined traditional things, took them one stage further to make apps and to make and use technology. And that was just one example. And now that although that won several design awards at the time, now we give that app free with all of our sets. So, you can take those tricks a bit further. For example, we all know lights from anywhere where you can grab lights, or we've got something where in your phone you can recharge the battery. It looks like the battery goes up with the light going inside it, things of that nature.
Yeah. And of course, you're the president of the Magic Circle. What problems do you face with being the president of the Magic Circle?
How long have we got? Big question. I don't see them as problems. I see them as solutions, and I see them as challenges, and I see them as things that we want to progress with. And so I was really proud to be elected to be the president because, as you know, we have about 1,750 members worldwide, including the elite magicians around the world and everyone in between who enjoys magic and has passed their exam and aspired to be a member. So to be voted and elected by your peers is quite something special, and I take it very seriously, especially as my dad, David Berglas, was the first elected president because, as you know, David Devant was the first president in 1905, a very well-known magician. And then you had the likes of Maskelyne and then the Earl of this and the Duke of that, 5 or 6 very prominent people. And then the secretary was a guy called Francis White, who was there for 31 years as secretary, became the president. and he was more of an ambassadorial figure. My dad there in 1989 was the first elected president, and he did a great job for 9 years there. And so to be full circle and that be there taking over a lot of the things that he had first set his eye on makes me feel very special because we're the first elected presidents of the Magic Circle in the 121-year history. Quite something.
And of
First,
course, to join the Magic Circle, you have to have an audition process. Do you get to watch the auditions?
I like to watch as many as I can. I find it very interesting and fascinating. I know it's quite a challenge for some people to stand and perform in front of their peers, 80 to 100 odd people, all magicians. Some quite worried, thinking, oh, they know how everything's done. But you know what? It's always best just to concentrate on your personality, do what you do best, and just to try and enjoy the experience. And and eventually people will get there and go up the ladder. And I really do have great pride in seeing people progress, and because the next thing from being a member of the Magic Circle, once you're accepted, is and we hope a lot of our young magicians will continue to become members of the Magic Circle. But of course, if you take an exam, you can become an associate of the inner Magic Circle with performances with a silver star as well. And that would be doing an exam as well, but like an audition, but it would be marked on various categories by the three examiners, be it sleight of hand and content and quality of magic and all sorts of things of that nature, presentation. And if you get over a certain mark, you get to that higher echelon, which is the highest exam you can get, the highest degree you can get by exam. And then the final thing, which is there's less than about 250 in the world, is become a member of the inner Magic Circle with Gold Star, the red badge that you see some people wear with pride. And it's actually only the president who can give that honor. So I'm either very popular or very unpopular. Genuinely, I like to try and watch as much magic as I can to reward those that are doing great things in magic.
And this is pretty much old news, but in September, Penn and Teller was able to join the Magic Circle. What was your idea process of letting them join? Because in previous years they have exposed magic.
Max, what do you think? Do you think if you were president in my shoes, what would you have done?
Don't really know. Probably would have let them in because they've started to die out of exposing it.
I don't think that would be the criteria that I was looking at. The fact that I suppose I would have let them in. No, I was determined to let them in because I think they've actually done more for magic than pretty much most magicians that we can think of. They've had obviously a career which has been, is it 30 or 40-year career where they've been together, and they've had a residency in Vegas and all that time. They've had TV series around the world. They've encouraged so many magicians through their Fool Us shows. And of course, Teller in particular is a fantastically gifted magician, and their act together is world-renowned, world famous. If you were to ask the public, to name 5 or 10 magicians, they would always be up there. And so I think they've done a lot. Now, clearly, there was a situation where, our motto, it roughly translates, and it's incorrectly translated, but something like not apt to reveal secrets in Latin. Funny enough, Teller is a Latin scholar, and he's pointed out exactly what it really does mean. And I think it's probably about time we updated it somewhat. But basically, the idea is that we don't give away our secrets. And clearly, when there was there was a time where they weren't allowed in the Magic Circle, and they caused a bit of fun on that. I think it was a bit of fun because when you actually think about, I think you're missing the point if you think they're giving away secrets. For example, if you've seen their cups and balls routine, it's a work of art. It's a jazz magic. It's with clear cups and balls and the whole orchestration of that whole routine is quite magical. And I think you're missing the point if you think they're giving away the secrets, because to replicate that would be near impossible just by watching it, slowing it down. It's years and years of practice, timing, etc. And I think that goes a lot for the magic they do. Yes, there were some criticism and there were some challenges that we had to overcome. I spoke to the people that I think were the most vehement potential critics, and between us, I think we worked it all out. And I think it was wonderful publicity that we had, and I think they've been great advocates, and they won't do that. They won't talk badly about us again. In fact, they'll promote us, and they were very proud. In fact, Taylor in particular was very emotional on his acceptance speech when I presented it to them on the steps of the Palladium recently.
And what has changed because what has changed from when you started being a president to now when you are like inside the running lead of you being the president?
Again, it's probably best that I ask someone else who's a member what they think. I can give you my thoughts, but do you have any gossip? Do you have any thoughts on it or not?
You have definitely helped the YMC with all the stuff like having the lectures like J Day, having all the stuff like that. You've really helped the young magicians in that part because basically the young magicians are the next future generations of magicians. So I think you've really helped with that thing, getting new young magicians in with Marvin's Magic, stuff like that.
Thank you. I like to think so. You're quite right that the Young Magicians Club is very close to my heart. As president of the Magic Circle, you automatically become president of the Young Magicians Club, and I was really thrilled to see. It's a very, very important part of what we do. If you divide the club and the Magic Circle into various elements, to me that is the sort of foundations, really, as you say, the future of magic. And we've had the likes of Edward Hilsom and Harry de Cruz, who've done a fantastic job, and now Robbie Stevens taking over is a wonderful character who I know is so passionate, and you can see by the quality of the lecturers that you get and the work put in by people like Rob Erie, who does the Secrets magazine, that there's a great deal of passion. And it's wonderful to see some of the talent come through, who I'm sure will be some, unbelievable magicians for the future. And in fact, I often say when I'm being interviewed that many of the young magicians that I see probably are technically better than some of the masters of yesteryear, but they've been taught, mainly at home or in their bedrooms or at the clubs, etc. And it's a different skill set, though, just knowing the techniques to actually the presentation and to work on stage or on television or something of that nature. And that's what makes the masters so great, that they have fantastic engaging personalities and styles of their own, which is something which is very important, to not just replicate and copy someone's style, not to be a karaoke magician, but to be almost like a singer-songwriter doing your own style and your own things. And that would be my advice. But in terms, going back to your original question, yes, the Magic Young Magicians Club is hugely important, as are other things. For example, our collection. We have an unbelievable collection. We have a library with 14,000 magic books, probably the best in Europe. We have a museum, and not all the things can be put out in the museum, and we have an incredible archive. And I was delighted to put Paul Keever's head of collections and his team together, and lots of great things are happening with that. So that's very important. I think also people tell me, especially when I was in a place like Blackpool or at different magic conventions, that they're seeing that the magic Monday night club nights are thriving. We've got bigger crowds than ever, very good atmosphere, a really good vibe. That's very important as well. A great program of events. So that's another thing. And I like to think that I've worked really well and hard to sort of emerge with a council and a foundation, because as president, you're not only the president of the council, you're also on the foundation, which is the body effectively that looks after the running of the building and looks after the collection. And so that's very important to be on both and understand both points of view. So I think we've restructured those organizations, and I think I'm really honoured to be working with very like-minded people who've got the good of the Magic Circle at heart. I think that's really important, to have a team around you that is on your side, that want to make things happen. And they're not just great and talented people, but they're friends as well. And I think when you're working with you, as you know, with your friends and with people who think alongside you, as I'm sure you do at times with the Young Magicians Club, it's so much easier to get things sorted out, and it's much more fun to get things sorted out. Now, don't get me wrong, we do obviously, they're not just yes people, we challenge each other all the time. We ask questions: is that the best thing to do? Should you do this? Should we do that? What about this? What about that? But together, we're all on the same side. We come up with the best solutions. So,
And of course,
sorry.
being the president of the Young Magicians Club, how did you come up with the idea of like Junior Day? Like, was it you who came up with the idea of Junior Day, or was it someone else?
And that wasn't my idea. In fact, I think it's really good to give credit to those that came up with the original idea. Ironically, just this week or next week is the funeral of Keith Churcher, and he was someone who was really instrumental in the beginning of the Junior Magic Day, and it was also the Junior Day at Reading, which turned into the Young Magicians Club, etc. So it's been going on for some, I'm guessing 30 plus years, and a lot of the people think very fondly of those that have helped them over the years, and there've been some great volunteers who are part of it. And so, no, it wasn't my idea, but I do support it, trying to get to each one, and obviously give my Marvin's Rising Star Award at those as well. And yeah, it's an important day, and I know it's looked forward to by all the junior magicians.
And what plans have you got for the Magic Circle or the YMC?
There's a lot of different plans always in development. There's a lot of plate spinning, not just magic. You have to, prioritize your time. It's a full-time job really, and it takes a lot of family time and a lot of time at the expense of your career, etc. So I really do give wholeheartedly to it, and it's and I'm really my next things. I think my remit was to, which is something we all benefit from, was to increase the prestige and the profile of the Magic Circle. And I think if we're all proud to be a member of the Magic Circle, I think that really helps greatly. And we've done that through good media campaigns, like the Penn and Teller thing, or the Sophie Sophie Lloyd story of her becoming, being recognised, to come into the Magic Circle, and the fact that we're doing a lot of high profile things like the President's Nights, which are charity nights that I put on for some big corporations where they've auctioned them at charities, and we've raised some fantastic funds for all different types of charities, and very high profile. So things like that are really great. But my ambition is also to take the Magic Circle, not just thought of as a London-based club, but it's thought of something nationally and internationally, which it is in time, but I think I want to get it more so. And I think we can capitalise on certain some additional shows and branding through that type of thing, utilising our members.
Yeah, and of course, you also perform on stage. What is your favourite stage prop to perform with?
Um, I perform all types of magic. I wouldn't say I'm known as a stage magician. I'm known as a magician. In terms of my background was in close-up magic, and now I really enjoy what we call parlor magic. With groups of maybe 150 people, quite close proximity, and I cut my teeth doing magic as Arsenal's resident magician for many years. I love my football, and I've got very close links with that. I was the first Premier League resident magician, and know a lot of the team and the players over the years, and the staff. And so I was doing many shows relating to that, and I had my favourite. And rather than say a specific prop, I would never say it's a prop. It would always be a routine or a trick or something like that. It's normally the one that gets the best effect, and I try to personalize the effects I do for the types of audiences that I'm using or
I
perform.
and if there's any new people or young magicians listening to this podcast, what advice would you give them to take their magic to the next level by being an entrepreneur or being a full-time magician?
There's two different questions there, really, Max. I think in terms of performance, I think there's a real difference between knowing how a trick is done and performing it in an entertaining way. And I think as a starting point, people have got to like you. And often the magic is a way that people starting out in magic gain confidence because it gives them a skill uh, and and playground power, if you like, to be the life and soul of the party by knowing a few things. But I think it's more than that. I think we've all seen good magicians, and likewise, we've seen some bad magicians. And I think, it's like if you're having a party, for example, and someone said, I know this violinist, they're really great, and said, oh, but this one's much cheaper. He or she would be really good. You'd rather have no violinist than a bad violinist. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Uh, as an example. The same with magic. I think it's really important to perfect your tricks well so you can do a few tricks really, really well rather than lots badly. And that's the major advice that I'd give. And I think that does take practice, and I think it does take performance skills, timing, listening to other people, being realistic about who you are and what type of magic suits you, and enjoying it and using your skills to the best of your ability to be who you are, not to be someone else, because then people want you. And then, when you become professional, it's not a question of the price of who's cheaper or who's more expensive. It's that they want you. And I think that's really important. So that's relating to performance side of things, and also take one opportunity one opportunity earns the next and the next and the next. And that's how my life and career has gone. And it's been very kind to me. But I like to think I've always tried to exceed expectations of what people have thought or wanted of me each time I've done something. In terms of entrepreneurial and how to set up a business, um, I think that's a very different thing altogether. Especially in the magic business, there's a lot of magic out there for magicians, and it's whereas when I was growing up, there used to be a catalogue of magic and a mail order system and a few bricks and mortar shops. Now there's very few, and it's a lot of stuff online. And we've got some very good video makers, very good designers who can make good packaging, and it seems to be that there's a lot of tricks out there with different inventors. And if you've got something great, go to one of those companies and maybe they can market your trick for you. That's not what I did. I chose to do something slightly different, and thankfully, it's our brand is well known and well respected, and it's slightly different. But I think it'd be harder now to do that, to form a brand, because it takes you need to have lots of outlets, and our goal was to go for the wider market of not just the niche market of magicians or hobbyists, but to take it a bit further and wider, which is why we run the magic shops in some of the big stores in London and in Paris and Madrid and Milan and New York.
And we had our questionnaire on Instagram where our viewers ask questions for me to ask you. And this question was given by Alex. Roughly, how many magic tricks do you own?
Do I own? I
Yeah.
mean, me personally in my magic den or lounge, or do you mean? Because if you say how many do I own, I've got a warehouse full of magic, a million plus tricks. But if that's the stuff that we sell as well. But if you're talking about uh, in my magic
I imagine inside your day-to-day set,
set, as in magic
as in like
performance.
what you perform out with.
Okay, I have too many. I have too many, like all of us. I come back from magic conventions, carry bags full of stuff, promising myself I'm not going to buy any more things. And I'm a sucker, like all magicians, for the latest fad, gimmick, whatever, and books. And I read a lot, and I perform, and I love seeing technology, and I love seeing new innovations in magic. But ironically, you tend, even with that, for something to make your A material, in other words, your best material, it's got to replace something. So sometimes, you can work really hard to try and come up with and learn new tricks that you think are wonderful, but they maybe don't get the same reaction as something you're already doing. So you tend to, I would say that I have 20 or 30 different effects and routines that are my favorite. The top 10, and then and then others that I can put in and out depending on where I'm working. But I also have many things in drawers full of stuff like all of us, which haven't been properly learnt, used, or need some time. I'm time poor at the moment, busy guy, so it's hard to. I don't have as much time as I'd like to really learn and practice new magic.
And finally, how can people apply to be part of the Magic Circle?
Um, there's actually on our website, magiccircle.co.uk, themagiccircle.co.uk, there is a place how to join, and there's a video which shows step by step of all the advantages you have of becoming a member. You have to be 18 to be a member, and you have to be recommended or proposed and seconded by someone, normally. So you're, showing that you're a good character, and then you can apply to become a member. And if you're already a member of the YMC, 100% it'll be a lot easier because they know you of old and they'll recommend you. So whoever your mentors or teachers or friends are who are already members of the Magic Circle, I'm sure they would happily recommend you. And we'd always encourage YMC members to progress to the next stage. So there's a video that shows you how to join, to fill out the form. You then speak to our membership secretary, and he would have a quick little chat, and then tell you what the next steps are. But it's a great advantage. Firstly, you're part of the most prestigious community in the world, and there's no better place than, if you come to the Magic Circle, you have a unique experience, and it certainly doesn't happen in other walks of life like sport or music, where you can go in and you can be sat at the same table as some of the greats of magic that you've read about, or your heroes. And if you're a nice person and you speak to them in a certain way, you're part of it, and then you'll soon become part of the gang. And I think that's how it works. If you're a nice person, someone will be nice to you, and you'll make lifelong friends, and you'll be able to share ideas. And that's one of the beautiful things about the Magic Circle. There's also the shows that we put on and lectures, which are really useful to watch. We also have stuff streamed, so you can watch it even if you don't come to the club from wherever you are in the world. And we have access to a wonderful magazine, which Rob Erie also has recently taken over from Will Houston to be the editor of, which is a wonderful magazine. And you have access to the 100 years previous of all of those magazines to learn tricks and find ideas and read articles. And there's also a catalogue of videos that you can access and see some past lectures. So it really is an unbelievable thing. And of course, you get to wear the badge and put it on your website or whatever, so it will help you get work and people recognize you and be part of that community.
Thank you so much thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Great pleasure, Max. And how's it going with the podcast? How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing the podcast for about 3 to 4 months now.
Well, I wish you luck with it, and
Thank you.
it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you for watching today's episode of the podcast. Goodbye.